Good morning and good afternoon from wherever you're coming from. Good evening to our US visitors. Thank you for joining us. My name's Charlie Thurgate, and I'm the Director of Element Agri. We're the exclusive importers and distributors of SEA-90 ocean minerals for Australia and New Zealand. Today, we're joined with the SEA-90 US team. So we have our Chief Mineral Officer, Mike Kilsilic, Senior Agronomist, Lynn Hoover, and Director of Sales, Colin Malero. And today we're going to be covering SEA-90 as a broadcast and foliar fertilizer, primarily, finishing with a bit on livestock at the tail end. There will be opportunity for Q&A at the very end of the session. So if you do have a question, put it in the chat. I'll hold on to it, and we can cover all of that at the end. SEA-90 is a broadcast fertilizer, and a livestock mineral supplement. So it has a broad range of uses, and it's a relatively new product to Australia, and we're very pleased to be working with many farmers and growing as time goes on. So I'll hand it over to you, Michael and Lynn, and we can get things underway.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Charlie, and thank you everyone for being here today. We're honored and privileged to have the opportunity to share more about SEA-90 ocean minerals. And like Charlie said, we're an open book and an open group here. We have about 45 minutes of presentation or so, give or take, and then we do want to leave plenty of time at the end for questions. Without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. If one of my team can give me a thumbs up that we're good. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you all so much again. My name is Michael, and Lynn will be joining us on this presentation as well. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of different elements related to SEA-90 ocean minerals. We're going to begin with some history as to how this product was discovered, really invented by Dr. Maynard Murray, some of the more contemporary history for SEA-90, and then really dive deep into the practical agronomic applications for SEA-90 and what the different outcomes that you can expect are when implementing SEA-90 into your operation. If you like more of what you're hearing here, if you want to dive deeper into the history of SEA-90 in particular, we would recommend these two books. These are published by Acres USA, and they are available both digitally and in print copies, and we can help you get your hands on those. On our website, SEA-90.com, we have additional research information as well as a variety of different recordings throughout the years, including from Dr. Maynard Murray himself. And then we have been honored to be on the Working Cows podcast several times. Those episode numbers are listed there if you are interested in learning more, particularly from Robert Kane and Lynn Hoover. Our purpose here at SEA Agri Solutions is to improve our collective health and wellness through the vitality of the ocean. We strongly believe that human health is not a standalone principle. It is directly linked to how we as a species manage our soil health, our plant health, and our animal health. And so we strive to use the power of ocean minerals to help improve all of those different facets for all of humankind. We're going to start with a brief history of SEA-90 here, and all of SEA-90 dates back to Dr. Maynard Murray. That's a name that you'll hear a lot when you research SEA-90 ocean minerals. Dr. Maynard Murray was a medical doctor, and he is the gentleman that invented and discovered sea energy agriculture and the use of sea solids or ocean minerals within agriculture, within agronomy, and within animal husbandry as well. He is the author of this book that I shared a few slides before, and certainly someone who knew a great deal about this subject, and we're grateful that he documented all of his learnings within this book. You can see here he actually was the Acres keynote speaker in 1976, and that speech is available on our website as well if you want to hear directly from Maynard Murray on the topic of sea energy agriculture. So how did Dr. Maynard Murray actually invent and discover this idea of using ocean minerals in agriculture? Well, as I mentioned, he was a medical doctor, and around the 40s and 50s or so, he was really dismayed with the declining health and wellness of his patients. He saw that humankind in general was making great strides in things like technology, but in the overall health and wellness of our populace, it seemed as though the rates of diseases like cancer and other cellular-based challenges seemed to be increasing. So we were making all these progress, we were progressing in some ways, but our health and wellness was declining. And what he did through a couple of different studies was correlate that decline in health and wellness to a decline in truly double-digit decline in the mineral content of our food supply. And that was from several different factors there, some of them due to conventional agriculture practices at the time. And so Dr. Maynard Murray said, okay, it seems as though human beings are less healthy at the same time as our food supply is becoming less mineral rich. Now, he also did a lot of traveling, and in his travels, he connected with various different people and did some research himself into marine life. And he found that conversely to land-based life, marine or ocean-based life was thriving. They seemed to have very low incidences of cancers and other cellular diseases, and he directly tied that to the discovery of the fact that salt water is not just salt water. In fact, the ocean water contains all of nature's minerals and trace elements, over 90 of them, in nature's perfect balance. And so Dr. Maynard Murray said, okay, land-based life is challenged, potentially due to a decline in mineral content in our food supply. But water or marine-based life is thriving, and they have all of these minerals and trace elements readily available to them. So he said, okay, given these two different things here, how can we use the power, the vital power of ocean water to help remineralize land-based food supplies, starting with soil and going to plants and animals? And so Dr. Maynard Murray began his trials by using ocean water itself as a fertilizer. He did a variety of different hydroponic studies down in Florida, and then ultimately expanded those studies to broad-based pasture and row crops throughout the Midwest in the United States. And what Dr. Murray was successful in doing is actually restoring the overall mineral density, improving the yield of what was grown, and improving the associated quality metrics, so things like protein, RFV, and others. And what was fascinating is that not only was he able to grow healthier and more nutrient-rich grass or row crops, but also when that pasture grass was fed to animals, those animals thrived and were healthier, and even showed reduced incidences of cancer in trials. Which Dr. Murray said, okay, we are pulling through these ocean minerals from application to the soil, through uptake in the pasture grass and the row crops, and then into the intake of animals. So it was really a fascinating way to bring the vitality of the ocean all the way through this entire thread of the food supply here. So why was Dr. Murray successful with this? So of course, fertilization is not something that was a new concept, but at the time, and this was in the 70s and 80s, the educational arm of agriculture had really only identified about 15 to 25 essential elements for successful agriculture operations. What they hadn't done is realize that all of nature's minerals and trace elements were put on this planet for use with our soil, with our pastures and our plants, and with our animals, and ultimately with humans as well. And so Dr. Murray said, even though the books of the time may only say you need 15 or 20 minerals, we've been successful because we're bringing all 90 plus minerals and trace elements into your soil and into your food supply. And it's interesting at the time, they also did some studies around the mineral composition of things like human blood, and we found that the mineral balance and the proportional balance of seawater, which as we mentioned is not just salt water, it's truly a mineral-rich 90 plus mineral solution. That mineral balance and those proportions are very similar to the mineral balance and proportions that you would find in human blood. And Dr. Murray found this to be a clear indication that human life and all other forms of life are meant to be exposed and have access to all of nature's minerals and trace elements so that they can truly thrive and release and experience their genetic potential. So after a bit of time, Dr. Maynard Murray, he was a smart man, and he discovered that it would not be efficient throughout all of agriculture, particularly in the US, to use ocean water. He figured that he needed to have a more logistically efficient solution to bring the ocean's minerals and trace elements into the heartland of America. And so Dr. Maynard Murray found locations within the world where you can create mineral-rich sea solids or unrefined sea salts that preserve all of the ocean's minerals and trace elements without degradation. And that discovery was what ultimately prompted the invention of SEA-90, which is the product that we're here talking about today. These unrefined mineral sea salts are a powerful energy source for all living things. And we have a really cool image of an electromagnetic microscope where if you put it on a live mode, you can actually see this crystal here, this mineral crystal, flourishing with activity under this electron microscope. So all of these sea solids, these crystals, are full of life and mineral vitality. SEA-90 is a unique product because of where it is harvested and how it is harvested. And this location, the same location where we harvest today, is the exact location that Dr. Maynard Murray discovered many decades ago. It's a location that preserves the minerals and trace elements from the Sea of Cortez, is where we harvest from. And it is significantly different than traditional table salt or anything that you might think of when the term salt comes to mind. So you can see here, we harvest from the northern Baja California Peninsula within Mexico, and our source of water is sometimes called the Gulf of California, but typically referred to as the Sea of Cortez. So this is the Sea of Cortez here on the left side, and our mine is in the upper shoulder of the Baja Peninsula here. And you can see kind of this progression over the pictures here. We are about 8 to 10 miles inland from the Sea of Cortez, so we are not harvesting the direct ocean water. Rather, the lunar tides actually bring in about 4 to 6 harvests worth of ocean water 4 to 6 times per year, and they flood these retention ponds that we use to help solar dehydrate the SEA-90 ocean minerals and ultimately result in those mineral-rich sea solids. There's 5 different reasons that make our location unique versus other products on the market. The first is the Sea of Cortez is an unusually mineral-rich body of water. That is partially because for many thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, the Rocky Mountains through the Colorado River would actually deposit mineral deposits from the Rocky Mountains through the Colorado River into the Sea of Cortez. Along with fresh water. So you would actually have more of a brackish, mineral-rich water solution that leads to our unique mineral profile. You have geothermal vents underneath the Sea of Cortez that help to push up rare earth minerals into the Sea of Cortez. You have year-round temperatures and minimal rainfall, so you create a very precise, proportionally balanced mineral sea solid. And this is a very remote and untouched by industry part of the world. The country of Mexico takes great pride in the Sea of Cortez. This is not like the Gulf of Mexico on the other side of the continent where there's oil rigs and things of that nature. It's very, very protected with virtually no industry on site there. And again, that's very important when you want to provide a very clean, mineral-rich sea solid. So all of these things make SEA-90 very unique, and these are factors that Dr. Murray himself identified over 40 years ago at this time, actually closer to 60 years ago. Here's a drone shot of our mineral retention ponds here. This is a very unique part of the world. It's incredibly it stops you in your tracks. It's a beautiful place to be. You have the Sierra Madre Mountains behind you, and you have these retention ponds, which may look small depending on the scale here, but believe it or not, each one of these is about the size of a football pitch. They're about an acre in size, so they are very, very large, and they allow for the mineral-rich waters from the Sea of Cortez to pass over this alluvial topsoil, flood these retention ponds, and then we harvest the mineral-rich sea solids. Here are some photos you can see of that process that's used to harvest those sea solids. And ultimately, our company today continues Dr. Murray's legacy by producing the same product that Dr. Murray discovered and invented over 60 years ago. We use the same location in the world. We do extensive laboratory testing to confirm that we have all of nature's minerals and trace elements. And versus many of our competitors that we found, we have 5, sometimes even 10 times the mineral and trace element content than what is available on the market from others. Paired with that mineral density, we also have the lowest natural sodium levels of any salt that is available. And it's very important, if you take away one thing from this presentation, we are not talking about table salt when we talk about adding salts to your agronomy operation. These are very different mineral-rich sea solids. This is not what you might be used to using on your table at home. SEA-90 is also about 99.5% water soluble, and because it was created from a living ocean source recently, the sea solids that you use would have been ocean water about 6 months ago. Because they are so close to that living ocean source, they have improved bioavailability, not only within the soil microbiome, but within your animal rumen as well, if you are feeding them to your animals. SEA-90 does offer a complete ocean mineral solution. We have products for all of your different operational needs. Today we'll be largely talking about the green bags on the right, which is our agronomy portfolio. But we do also offer a full animal vitality portfolio, both our standalone mineral sea salt and our mineral sea salt with garlic for natural fly, flea, and tick prevention. In addition to these core products, we also have recently expanded our liquid agronomy system to contain a variety of different products for your agronomy needs. We do have a spore-based biostimulant that is called BioWave Max, and Lynn will talk a little bit about how you can use a biostimulant in tandem with our dry spread SEA-90 broadcast minerals. That is something that we are working with Charlie to potentially introduce to the Australian market likely next year. We do have an organic fungicide rescue treatment product that we call SEA-90 Lightning Rescue. And lastly, we have our SEA-90 Liquid Mineralizer Concentrate, which is our SEA-90 dry spread ocean minerals, pre-liquefied and pre-concentrated for large-scale uses in applications like foliar use, drip irrigation, drench systems, things of that nature. So SEA-90 offers a wide variety and portfolio of ocean mineral products for all of your operational needs. Now, as I mentioned, SEA-90 is not just salt. SEA-90 is the bedrock of an ocean-based agronomy approach to farming. You're going to hear from Lynn Hoover here momentarily. And one of the things that Lynn likes to speak a lot about is the soil microbiome and how soil bacteria, fungal activity, and enzymes help to really create that fertile environment and that productive growing environment so that you can grow nutrient-dense pasture grass or row crops for your operation. That soil microbiome acts very similarly to a cow's rumen or even a human digestive system. It's all of that bacteria and fungi working together to help keep systems operational, and bacteria and fungi feed off of those mineral nutrients that SEA-90 ocean minerals and an unrefined sea salt can truly provide. So what can you expect to see in the field? Lynn's going to cover a great deal of this, but overall you're going to see improved fertility, efficiency, and balance within your soil structure and the health of your soil. You're going to improve your water retention. You're going to drive that nitrogen processing bacteria, that azobactin bacteria, so that you can naturally produce nitrogen and sequester that nitrogen so that you then can reduce your reliance on other inputs. You're going to fuel and multiply not only the bacteria, but the fungi as well. SEA-90 can transmutate to provide needed potassium within your system, and SEA-90 is also key for carbon sequestration. And again, one last time, sodium and chloride are not only are they not a concern, SEA-90 is not a table salt in the way that you are used to. SEA-90 ocean minerals contain all of your macro and trace minerals, and that sodium and chloride work in tandem with those macro and trace minerals, and they are governed by those minerals to ensure that you achieve balance and overall productivity in your soil without any concern about sodium or chloride levels within your soil. With that, it is my great honor to introduce a good friend of mine, Lynn Hoover. Lynn Hoover has extensive experience working within dairy farming and crop farming all over the United States. He is also an incredible guy, great family man, and he has forgotten more about SEA-90 and agronomy than I have ever learned in my life. So he has a significant depth of knowledge that I know he's excited to share with you today. And moreover, beyond that, he is more than happy to meet with you, discuss any unique needs for your specific operation, and help build a plan that best fits what your goals are. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lynn. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, for that great introduction. And thanks, Charlie, for all your efforts to put this together and the rest of the SEA-90 team there and Colin. I'd like to thank everyone else for taking time to join. Like as Michael said, I've been working with SEA-90 products as a farmer. Let's see, for soon be 20, well, or almost 30 years pretty soon. And full time, I've been working with this product just short of 10 across the entire nation of the United States. So I've got to see a lot of things from high salt, high pH to low salt, low pH, high organic matter, low organic matter, warm season, cold season, all kinds of different stuff. So lots of experience. I'm excited to help you guys. The neat part about, in my opinion, being working with dairy is you get a report card every day. Me and my wife and son, we still have a little small Guernsey dairy we run here in Oklahoma. So I guess the experience in the milk tank, or not a milk tank, it's a pail because we just have a couple cows. But so we're still gathering information and data, and still at it and producing really good milk that people really enjoy. So uh, so this next slide with our soil health and fertility principles. If you don't remember anything else we said all night, this is probably the most important slide as a take home. We tried to break everything we're going to talk about down into 5 important bullet points for you all to remember to take home. So number 1 is it's important to make sure your soil's alive and activate or feed the native soil microbiome. The more chemical or chemistry that you have to use to control weeds, the more important this is. If you're a natural grazer, not using no chemicals, probably not as key because you're not doing nothing to really hinder it. The cows out there roaming around with their saliva and just their manure and whatnot is already feeding that native microbiome. Number 2 is we roll this together. Balance your calcium roughly to 65 to 75% base saturation, and your sodium to 1 to 3% base saturation. Number 3 is try to target a minimum phosphorus of approximately 23 parts per million, or it translates to about 40 to 46 pounds per acre, kind of as a minimum. That's a good floor. And then target your sulfur at approximately 20 parts per million or 40 pounds per acre. This is super important for nitrogen efficiency, as well as holding the electrical charge in the soil, if you will. Also structures your protein in your forage crops for your livestock. And then last but not least is nitrogen as needed per crop. We'll show you some really neat soil tests later. We can get some extremely accurate intel. Nitrogen is important, however, we don't want to overdo it. So remember this slide. If you can write it down or screenshot it or whatever, this is really important. So we also have some soil tips and guidelines to work with. As most people know in agronomy, calcium is the backbone of the soil that makes everything function and run. It determines your total volume yield of all things agriculture, both plants and animals. So this is what gives you your tonnage, your bushels, your milk yield, etc. So that calcium and making it mobile is very, very important to make sure it's there in your soil. All fertility sources must go through a biological process to come plant available. This is why it's important to have a living soil microbiome. When we do go to apply fertility, phosphates push up in the soil. So if you apply them first and then your calcium pushes down in the soil. That will gain you some efficiency because it tends to stay around a little bit longer in the soil. The more calcium and phosphorus we can mobilize, the higher Brix or sugar level, which is mineral density, higher energy or test weight, depending on what crop we're growing. All nutrients except nitrogen will enter in the phosphate form when things are running correctly. The soil has two basic simple parts. I break it down into bacteria, largely manages nitrogen. Your fungi largely manages your phosphate conversion, as well as your water and carbon cycles. Soil compaction can be caused by improper nutrient ratios. So anything we can do to push that soil apart is going to be really key. The carbon cycle. So carbon has three parts, just like water. We have CO2, which is the air. We have our liquid carbon, which is the plant sugars. And then we have solid carbon, which could be anything from organic matter to plant roots to green or brown plant residue. Understand that ocean minerals are the keys that unlock and connect the enzymatic function in plants for genetic expression. Every crop has genetic mineral uptake and will look for 90 different minerals if allowed. Grasses will take in all 90. And so ocean minerals are the fuel source and connector to soil biology. So that's very, very important to understand. And that's extremely key to your success on your operation. So, what are some things you can do on your farm? Um, some more soil tips and guideline ratios. So understand we have a little arrow chart here. It's kind of a biodynamic chemical sequence of nutrient release. Boron is the first domino that has to fall. That activates your silicon, which carries as the upward flow of plant nutrients, which now combines with calcium. And now we need nitrogen to be our electrolyte to be the trucker, if you will, to carry these nutrients throughout the plant. Then our magnesium is what turns the plant green. That and iron helps to actually harvest the sun's energy. And now we finally connect up with with phosphate, which now forms our carbon and our sugars. And now last but not least, is potassium needs the least amount of biological life to move. And so that's kind of the biochemical sequence of how the dominoes kind of fall. So, a calcium to magnesium ratio, and this is, general guidelines to target is 8 to 1. Cal to mag, the narrowest, no more than 5 to 1 is the narrowest if we can. That's going to help that soil breathe and push apart. And so we try to target a 65 to 75% base saturation on calcium and roughly a 10 to 18% magnesium base saturation. If you have a soil test that gives you a weak bray and a strong bray, we really like the strong bray to lead the weak bray by at least a 1.5 to 2. And regardless if your phosphorus is high or low, at that point is somewhat immaterial because the phosphorus you have is releasing very, very well. And that's a sign of good, just biological life in your soil. We're going to skip over a couple of these. So another way to on your calcium is try to make sure you have 270 to 300 pounds of calcium per CEC. So that's another way to calculate your calcium needs, regardless of pH, that we have come to learn is super important. A Brix level of 10 or higher will assist in better insect and natural disease control. Skipping down here to sodium, we like to target a base saturation of 1 to 3%. We have come to learn that without being excessive, the higher that number is, the more calcium and phosphate we move, and the greater the lesser need we have for fertility, and the greater mineral density we can pack into a plant. So, and then as far as the whole salt issue, as long as your potassium 100% base saturation is leading by half to 1%, no matter what the level is within reason, you'll never have a salted out problem ever. So that's another way to know by looking at soil tests, where the green, yellow, red light is. And I tell guys, I mean, theoretically, I don't like to see if you add your K and sodium together on a percent base saturation across 10. Um, I have seen that. It's not the end of the world, but ideally, I like to keep them under 10. So, uh, let's see. So, the most important thing to remember on your farm that anything you can do that keeps your soil breathing, okay? Here again, so CalMag ratio. So when you're hauling in limestone, make sure that you look at your calcium carbonate and your magnesium carbonate and never ever spread a limestone that has a tighter ratio than 8 to 1. Because if you follow that principle, you're always going to maintain or widen that gap, which is good. And we do need magnesium. However, tighter than that makes your soil very tight, makes it very nitrogen inefficient, and makes it very droughty, no matter how much it rains. Okay? So anything we can do, and this depends if you're grazing versus row cropping, but your residue carbon incorporation and management is really, really important. Try to, if you are crop farming, try to get that residue back in contact with the ground in a way that we're not either washing or eroding it away by water, if we can do that in your region. With a soil penetrometer, ideally, if we can keep 200 psi or less, that's kind of in normal field conditions, not super wet or in a super bad drought. And 150 is kind of the bullseye, but definitely under 200 is we're in the green light go zone. Okay, this is going to allow for greater nitrogen and overall fertility efficiency, as well as your natural nitrogen cycle to function extremely well. And also do understand in all this getting soil to breathe, hydrogen plays a very key role in oxygenating soil as well as driving bricks into plants. So do remember that because hydrogen is another one that's not talked about much. So if we move on here to our chart, you can see that over 200 psi, we fall off very quickly on how alive our soil is. And if you move down to the next chart, you'll see there our bacteria and fungi over 200 psi. I mean, it's falling off fast. And over 200 psi is where modern ag production, when your soil's over 200 psi, that's what requires us to be so heavy on our nitrogen and potassium applications in order to grow any said crop. So, if we just understand these few things and can manage according, that is really good. So, SEA-90 ocean minerals, okay, is the world's most nutrient dense sea mineral. Replaces the half and in some cases all potassium needs. It's from what I understand about you guys in Australia. I'll be confident saying replaces any potassium needs that you have, which may or may not be high. However, it also is a key driver to mobilizing calcium, and that is super key to driving success. Covers all your micronutrients and trace elements. Will for sure make 40 pounds of nitrogen, 12 pounds of sulfur. Plays a very important role in connecting your soil microbiome and multiplication and connected to fertility resources. And like I said, it is very key at making calcium available. This last point here is really important to understand. We've been trained in modern production ag to lean heavy on nitrogen and put extra out there just in case. Understand that nitrogen is an electrolyte, okay? So it means it's a truck driver, if you will, okay? It's hauling a load of whatever we solubilize. So is salt. Therefore, when we have adequate amounts of mineral salts in the soil, it reduces our need for nitrogen, and excessive nitrogen is what's burning through organic matters and our carbons, okay? And so the more salt we can rely on, mineral salt we can rely on without being excessive, the less nitrogen we have to go buy, okay? And the same is true for a cow. The more salt that's out there in the field coming up through the grass, the lower the protein can be, and you'll actually make way more milk by a lot, okay? So that's very, very important to remember. Okay, so sodium or salt has the ability to what they call transmutate, and it can create potassium. So I know you guys are probably not in an area that needs a lot of potassium, but in any place that does need potassium, it can create potassium on call. I will say this, in the world of dairy production, you want low potassium and salt. The salt will govern potassium and never let it become excess. Um, Dairy cattle thrive off of anything that mobilizes calcium, not potassium. I will say this, 90% of all vet bills and metabolic problems on a dairy are caused by excessive potassium. And I can assure you that C90 will keep everything governed, just where it needs to be to not mess that up. One thing, uh, let's cover this real quick before I forget. So a lot of people ask the question of how can salt even or mineral salt in this case be even healthy or wise to spread on an acre of land? So it's important to understand that, by God's design of creation, that the rumen biology and the soil biology are extremely similar in principle. That if you understand one, you understand the other. And so we all understand that cattle need salt to survive. Okay, so the question is what does the mineral salt do for the cow? That is what is connecting all the carbon and feedstuffs that come into that rumen, and it's connecting it to the rumen microflora microbiome so it can be fruitful, multiply, that it can break it down, give her health, and give the cow life. Okay, so if mineral salt is that important for the cow to be healthy, how important do we think it is for soil to be healthy and to be fully productive? The answer is very. Okay, so moving on with that, let's go into other questions to consider. Okay, is it possible to pull or process nitrogen, out of the air for the soil? The answer is yes. So there are several different bacteria strains in the soil that are in every acre of land around the world. The As Michael mentioned earlier, there's Azobacter, there's some Cyanobactic, and some others in there. And whenever you put ocean minerals on an acre of land, that fuels those strains of bacteria. So when your soil is very aerobic and breathing, before every storm system that comes in, we get low barometric pressure. So the air is approximately 78% nitrogen. That low barometric pressure is going to allow that air to sink into the soil. When it rains, it momentarily seals it off, and then those bacteria can go to work, and that's how you process nitrogen from the air for a grass plant that can save you lots and lots of money as a grass farmer, and that's of all classes of grass, including corn, pasture grass, etc. And if we grow grass that way for a cow, your grass will go further. She will make more milk. She'll contain more condition, and your milk will typically have more components in it when you go to sell it at the processor. Okay, so do you know what retains fertility in your soil? Um, does available calcium determine the money in your bank account? Do we really need all that potassium or other fertilizer? Okay. So if we move on to the next slide here, we got a soil test. And this, of all the traveling I've done in the United States, this is the only company I found so far that is this extensive and has me really excited because we do all this work sometimes through cover crops or rotational grazing or biodiversity. Could be trying to account for manure management, stuff like sea minerals, processing nitrogen out of the air, etc. So if we go to this where it's circled in blue there, this is Walter's lab from Owensboro, Kentucky, here in the States, and so they're breaking it down. They're giving us several categories. So we have the Solvita carbon burst measurement. We have the Solvita SLAN measurement. We have the active carbon measurement. We have aggregate stability by percentage. We have the organic matter. We have NH4, which is ammoniacal nitrogen. We have NO3, which is nitrate. Then we have an estimated biological N mineralization pounds per acre. And then they give you kind of a they sum all the numbers up through some kind of calculation, the best they can figure, into an estimated nitrogen for crop on a pound per acre basis. On this particular one is saying 75. So, and I think I can't remember we were growing here. It doesn't matter, but so, let's just say this was grass, okay? Probably not going to respond to much more nitrogen. I say that cautiously, depending on what type of grass we're growing. But point I'm trying to make is if we need nitrogen, it's okay to go look for some. However, if we got it all right there, let's not go waste money on it for two reasons. One is it costs money. Two is sometimes it can slow down the bigger picture goal, what you're trying to do. And therefore, so here's just a tool in a toolbox to try to help us to go further. So moving on to what retains the fertility in our soil is going to be organic matter and carbon, right? That's your holding power, 4 times its weight in water and nutrients. It can be immediately absorbed and given back. And then your CalMag and your mineral salts is also very key at your retaining your fertility in your soil. Okay. So, does available calcium determine the money in your bank account? The answer is yes, it does. Calcium is a very insoluble nutrient. The source does matter. You should always look for a really good, fine ground calcium carbonate with a high relative neutralizing value. You should look for one that has a calcium to magnesium ratio of 8 to 1 or wider. And always remember it takes, good living soil and very good chemistry and biology to make it available. And always remember that your SEA-90 salt is very, very key and crucial to mobilizing calcium in the soil. Okay. Um, so it's all moving on to the next slide here. Do you really need all that potassium? I mean, there's some parts of the country, hopefully not where you're at, but I mean, some parts of the United States are very enamored with very high amounts of potassium being spread. Um, when you have enough mineral salt in the soil, that is what's making potassium available. You don't got to go buy no more. And the more calcium you have available, the less potassium you got to go look for. And therefore, your yield's going to be greater. Your shrink will be less. You'll have less weeds. You have less drought problems, and you'll have better water management. So that's really key to understand. So with some below ground management and above ground results here, moving on here to the next slide. This is going to that's going to improve your nutrient retention and your carbon sequestration. And on that line, we can pull, not pull, well, we can pull, but your calciums and your mineral salts will help attract, and CO2 is heavy, it'll attract CO2 out of the air and put it right into an aerobic breathing soil. And and when your soil with a penetrometer is hitting that bullseye of down to 150 range, your grasses are not even wanting to grow in nitrogen anyhow. They want CO2, and they will grow in that with CO2 very, very well. Okay. So C90 also can replace 50 to 100% of potassium needs, depending on where we're at in the world. It's going to produce 40 pounds and sometimes north of that of nitrogen for natural cycling. It's going to fuel and feed your mycorrhiza fungi very well, which is going to improve your phosphate availability. That is what puts your energy into your forage as cattlemen. So anything you do to improve your phosphate availability, that's milk in the tank, okay? Or grain on the ear of corn or wheat or barley, whatever we're growing. It's going to provide very comprehensive trace mineral support. It does help improve your calcium retention and recharge. Um, uh, Typically in pasture grasses, we're going to see an increase in yield, improved forage mineral profile typically. With your small grains, corn, milo, we typically see a test weight increase, as well as yield typically is what we see. Um, let's see, moving on here. So this is some stuff that Charlie did, and Charlie, you're welcome to chime in here. But this is right here in you guys' backyard. Charlie put down, let's see, 90 kilograms per hectare. He applied this in November 25, and we've seen a increase in our calcium percent base saturation. We've seen our magnesium reduce, which was good because that spread ratio. Our potassium came up just a little bit, so we mobilized that, so don't got to go buy none of that. You see our sodium came up a little bit. Our hydrogen came up, which is good. Our electrical conductivity came up. And our soluble phosphate or soluble phosphorus came up, as did our sulfur. So and zinc and boron. So all them numbers moved higher. So that was really, really good.
And
So
I'll just
let's see
quickly
here.
cut in. If anyone did want to see the full soil test there, I can flick it through to you guys. We just sort of compressed what was we thought was really valuable for today.
Yes. So I see we're getting narrow on time here. Um, so results and case studies from over here in the U.S. Here again, just as a quick flyover, improved fertility efficiency retention, as well as soil structure health, better water retention, efficacy, drought tolerance, more efficient nitrogen processing. We're going to fuel multiply mycorrhiza fungi. And it's really key for C90 is very key for carbon sequestration. Moving on to forage test, we typically see a bump in protein, typically see a bump in energy, as well as our mineral profile typically gets a little bit higher, which is going to make it denser, which means less forage now goes further. I know this is probably hard to benchmark grazing, but in confinement, the highest efficiency I've ever been able to benchmark is a 20% reduction in total needed feed to maintain the same or greater milk output. So that's pretty huge in the world of forage. Yeah, moving on to small grains, case studies there. Um, we're going to improve test weights, drought tolerance, insect resistance. We're going to, put a fight out for that. And really just if we get a whole system dialed in for you guys, we're just going to be able to reduce an entire, we should be able to lower the entire threshold of needed purchase fertility. Okay, we have a soil test here. Let's see. This one is trying to think where it's from. I think this is from Oklahoma over here in the U.S. And if you looked at in the blue, look at it there in the blue. The as you can see, as the sodium, and I picked one that was extremely high, just as an example to show guys. But at 5.1 sodium, we're retaining very large amounts of phosphorus, potassium, calcium, etc. So a lot of people see that sodium as being bad or dangerous. I'm going to tell you it's your friend, provided you don't cross into excess. And you see the zinc's really high. We're moving boron up and copper up and all that stuff. So very, very important. Moving down, let's see. Do you guys grow soybeans in your world over there, Charlie?
Um, it's about, but not so common. Not a huge crop in Australia.
Okay. And we don't need to focus much time on that. So if we go back to let's see, soil health and fertility principles, them 5 steps that we started with, we'll hit them here again, just as a follow up. These 5 steps, if you can take a picture of this or write it down, make sure you activate or feed your soil native microbiome. Balance that calcium to roughly a 65 to 75% base saturation. Target your sodium for 1 to 3% base saturation. Get that phosphorus targeted at around 23 parts per million or around 40 to 46 pounds per acre. Target sulfur at around 40 pounds per acre. And then here again, balance your nitrogen as needed per crop and use some really good soil tests to get that accurate intel. So moving on to some on the animal side of this thing, real quick, and then we can get some questions here. Um, so on the animal side, I'm a huge, huge proponent of whether you're, dairy, beef, whatever you are, makes no difference to me. Is C90 is part of your mineral salt system. Is to me, you can't farm without it. To me, I think it's that good. So on our premium minerals, you can include them into a feed ration. If you're dairying, you can start out at 4, and then free choice the rest, 4 to 6, and free choice the rest. That way, I mean, a cow will never overdo it on salt if they're left alone. The other thing to understand is this C90 mineral salt really helps heat abatement on cows. Just including C90 into a dairy ration, I've seen 5 pound of milk increase in 100-degree temperatures over here in the U.S. So I mean that's huge. Okay. So make sure it's in the ration, and make sure it's offered free choice, and they will not overdo it. So I've seen it improve, like I said earlier, feed efficiency, breeding, definitely reduction or almost elimination of pink eye, hoof rot. It really reduces your overall veterinary medical costs. Um, uh, and just this time freshening, it seems to it's very significantly. We all have is a really good one. It is definitely 100% on your fleas and ticks and all that, on your flies. I'll give it a super high rating. It's not that you won't ever see flies on your cows. However, I'll give you a 99.9% chance that you will not have pink eye and hoof rot and all that other stuff that comes with flies. I don't know what other incidences, like over here in the US, sometimes we have anaplasm, which will kill cows from too many fly bites. And I know it pushes way back on that as well. So the garlic is super, super important. So in those summer, summer warm season months, garlic's a big win for your livestock operation. Um, let's see. Um, so just testimonials here from days gone by. Some people have seen protein increase up to 25%. Um, guys are going to see more tonnage, just overall happier cows. I mean, for you guys that are grazing, one thing to really observe is how many hours a day your cows spend laying down chewing or cud. So the more nutrient dense that your grass or forage is, the more hours a day those cows will spend laying down, and the more hours they spend laying down, the greater the nutritional density of your forage is, and the more milk they will make. So that's another just visible way. To go out there and just kind of observe what's going on. So we have solutions for all operations. And Michael, you can, I guess, jump in here anywhere you want. But we have the soil health, we have plant health, the BioWave Max. I'm really excited about that launch. When that's a great product. The Lightning Rescue as a fungicide, if and when needed, that is a great, fantastic product. And as well as the Baja Gold on the human health side. So Charlie's a great resource. He has contact with all of us over here. And so we're happy to take questions or whatever. And I'll turn it back to Michael here for a minute.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lynn. And thank you all for your time this evening. Yes, just to wrap things up here before we open it up for questions and answers, just reiterating our purpose here, and everything does revolve around the goal of improved human health, which ties directly back to Dr. Maynard Murray's original mission of improving the health of his patients. Lynn mentioned it briefly there. We do have a sister brand called Baja Gold Salt Company. We believe it's the world's healthiest, most flavorful sea salt. It's sourced from the same location as SEA-90, and it is handled in a way that is food grade and food safe. It provides all of those wonderful benefits, all of the minerals and trace elements, your reduced sodium chloride level, and it does help to feed that human-based digestive system, that microbiome that exists within all of our guts. Allows us to express our genetic potential and be the best versions of ourselves. And just like Charlie has Element Agri for SEA-90 products, Charlie also offers the Baja Gold product line through elementu.com.au. So please be sure to check that out. Just a quick reminder on some of these things we referenced at the beginning. You'll get a copy of this presentation if you want to dive into some of these in more detail. And with that, we are a little over time, but our team is happy to stay as late as needed and answer any questions that you may have. And for better visibility, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, but we are all here.
Yeah, so if anyone would like to ask a question, unmute, unvideo, whatever yourself, and yeah, fire away. Do you have a question? What size bags does it come in, price and availability? So Claire, our offerings are 50 pounds, so 22.68 kilo bags, or we're currently doing bulk bags as well at 950 kgs. So yeah, basically around Australia, New Zealand, we've got warehousing set up so we can ship directly to you. And all of our products are available on our online store. If you're a bigger producer, we suggest to go through the portal, our producer portal for larger orders. And basically, wherever you are, we'll find the best freight quote to get the product to you. So yeah, and if you are looking to do any broadcasting and fertilizing this coming autumn, please do put your order in or get in contact with me about your needs as soon as possible, because it does take a while to get from the States. We do have stock on the way for this fall or autumn, but yeah, it is a product that comes from the States, so we need to be prepared.
I think there's some more questions there, Charlie.
Yeah. Do you want to answer foliar or broadcast, Lynn?
So my greatest preference is broadcast if you're trying to really replace a lot of fertilizer dollars. However, if budget is of the main concern, foliar is super good as well. Just understand that foliar will influence that said crop, but it's not going to really change much on the soil test. However, it's still helping your soil. So that's how I kind of differentiate between foliar or broadcast.
Yeah, and you were saying earlier before we started that people that were dealing with sodic soils, foliar perhaps would be a better option.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. And how to spread. So might be able to share a bit more on this. So I believe you can spread it through a cone spreader, but for better consistency, a belt or chain spreader is the better way to go.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. Thank you. Well, I guess, yeah, once again, we'll wrap it up here if there's no more questions. Thank you all for joining. Just note that this presentation has been recorded, so I'll send a link to everyone. So if you want to come back and rewatch, you can find my contact information on my website, which I'll send you a link to as well. So yeah, thank you all very much for coming.